Good evening and welcome to the Norwood Trails Advisory Committee meeting of Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. It is actually October, which no one can believe. We have a number of folks sitting around the table. We do not have anyone joining us so far from Remoteville, but that is a possibility. And for the time being, I'm going to ask everybody, we're going to go around the table and just enter with your name and sign in, please.
Joe Barrett.
Marguerite Brooke. Beth Young.
Jean Palmetier.
Roger Mann.
Brian Palmetier.
Lee Leach.
And I'm Joe Greeley. Thank you all for coming. We are here, excuse me, we're here in the Norwood Senior Center on Prospect Street. We've got literally dozens of empty chairs and they're always available. Love to have an audience come and help us manage this process. I did, let's see, we have, all of our meetings are recorded through Norwood Community Media. We also take minutes and post them to the town website. We do follow the open meeting laws for the state of Massachusetts. And feedback is us. We have an email address, trails@norwoodma.gov. You think by now I would know what it is? trails@norwoodma.gov. We've actually got a couple of emails this week, and I don't want to ruin the surprise yet, but I'll tell you who those people are. I did distribute it. I wanted to say thank you to Alex and Beth, who took meeting minutes from the last two meetings. I have distributed those drafts, and if I could find them.
Oh, while you're looking, I did want to say thank you, Beth. I went back and I looked at the August meeting. It's like, I think while I was making notes, when everybody, the feedback people gave me that I needed to add to my presentation, I missed some of the later stuff. So I was like, oh, wow, cool. So it was good to catch up with the things that apparently when my brain did it, I missed it. So
I am glad that
I
they
appreciate
were
it.
helpful. That's the point.
There you go. Perfect.
So even when I'm at the meeting, sometimes I'm not at the meeting. But
We noticed that.
Let's see. So we have
oh yeah.
it's somewhere in here. I have a PDF file.
So I
Okay. Does anyone have a chance? Everyone have a chance to look at these meeting minutes? Let's talk about the August 13th, 2024 minutes first. We'll do this separately. Let's see, in attendance that night, and excuse me, you can only vote on minutes if you had attended that meeting. So names of attendees: Greeley, Jean Palmetier, Brian Palmetier, Beth Young, Craig Austin, Vic Babel, Marguerite Krupp, Chris Paddock, Joe Barrett, Alex Jones, Chris Riston. And I don't see her name, but Alex took the minutes, so she was here as well. So anybody have a chance to look at those minutes? I'll entertain a motion.
That's August.
August 13th.
That was
Beth did. I was
those are
gonna say,
mine.
Oh, those are yours. Oh, okay. Huh, okay. I
I
got
got
them flip-flop, sorry.
one comment on it. It's somewhere in there. You mentioned the plank we were thinking of putting down here at Vanderbilt on the power lines. It's a 4 by 12 by 20. I think it says it's an 8 foot. It's
Close. 4 by 8 by 20.
4 by
I
12 by 20.
4 by 12.
I could not conceive of a 20-foot long.
It was
But I
heavy.
heard it weighed 275 pounds.
Well, to be honest with you, we were gonna get a 16 and I couldn't. So I had it off for a 20, so we got a 20 down there, which was better.
Yes, precisely.
Because 16 was cutting it close.
So it says 4 by 8, and what should it be? I'm sorry.
It should be 4 by 12 by 20.
Okay. Okay. I'll make that change. Thank you. Thanks. Let's see, there's other items on here. Any other comments, questions? Also included, Beth had attached the maintenance schedule as of that day.
It's so useful for everything to have.
It is actually, it is quite useful. And that is what, at 7. Feedbacking, there's a couple of other things in there that I don't necessarily want to talk about. Maintenance plan is 16 pages long. So, excuse me, included in these minutes are that document and a couple of pages of minutes. So with that change of item number 10, anybody else have any comments, or anybody want to make a motion who was in attendance?
Motion to accept.
I hate that I didn't find any typos or anything. So, thank
I
you.
move to accept the minutes.
Okay.
The meeting notes.
Okay, motion by
correct, though.
Joe B and seconded by Jean. I did hear Beth, but you actually took the minutes, so I can't.
I don't look great to me.
I think that's recording. So, okay, great. All those in favor, we don't have any other remote people, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Moving right along. So that was August 13th, 2024. Second set of minutes is our meeting September 10th, 2024. In attendance, Chris Paddock, Marguerite Krepp, Craig Austin, Vic Babel, Joe Greeley, Joe Barrett, Chris Riston, Alex Prinkett. Any comments on that? I don't know if we spelled George Michalek's name correctly. Do you remember how to spell it?
Michalec, I think. Or Mitch. Oh, I can actually call it out. But it's even up there.
Thank you.
There's MIK.
Um,
There's a K in there somewhere.
put them in sent box, that'll be better. Mick, Mick.
Yep.
Alec.
Hey,
Mick Jagger.
okay. Alec. Okay, cool. So that one, I just wanted to make sure for the record we had his
Good to
name.
me.
Any other comments of anybody who has reviewed these comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
Should accept.
Okay, thank you. Joe B and Marguerite, thank you. So with those changes, we'll amend them on this?
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, sure.
Just a quick question. I know Gene and I were in Vermont, so we weren't here. Was anything about wayfinding mentioned, or did we just skip it? Because I didn't see it in the minutes. So
I think we skipped it.
got it. Okay.
Yeah. Anytime anybody sends me something, I know we've talked about this before, but like we always try to get this out 24 hours ahead. And the day of, like today, I spent the afternoon in this lovely town common with Mr. Leach here and Beth and Vic Babel. So I'm off the grid for the afternoon. So if anybody sends me anything, you've probably already found out that if I don't get it within like 24 hours or later,
Yeah, I should
or
probably
earlier.
call ahead, right? Because I sent one the day before.
Okay.
When I knew we were going to be in Vermont, but then I
Okay.
didn't think to call it. And the problem you've been having with your email, you might not got it.
Yeah. If it's something like that, I'd rather, like you had a bunch of questions and a bunch of comments. So, and then the fact that you all weren't here didn't, whatever, I just kind of put that off. So,
Okay.
so we do have that and we can touch base on that tonight. Thank you. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes of 9/10/24 as amended. Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3. 3 in favor. Marguerite, Joe Barrett, Joe Greeley, 3 in favor and 0 opposed. Okay, thank you. Um, next item on the agenda, we have, visitors.
Ah,
Would you like to introduce
Sure.
our friend here?
so sitting across from me is the esteemed Roger Mann, who was our intern this summer. And he did some work at Meadow Street, did some work at the Pine Tree Forest in Vanderbilt. Most notably, you will probably think was the best part, instead of just plain old weed whacking, is we put in that whole new trail along the power lines inside the woods from Vanderbilt all the way up to the Pine Tree Forest.
Wow.
So now, we got all this,
Is that from the cul-de-sac? The black
yeah,
line? Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
so this is cul-de-sac here. We always had a tree that, the trail that went across here, this is Pine Tree Forest Trail going along the Neponset, and this is coming in from Vanderbilt. And then we used to have to walk onto the streets and go up to like Castle Iron Brewery and come up the sewer easement and come back around the sewer easement. And now you can just do that one loop along that black trail. And so that was the last thing we got to work on before the summer ended. Roger was he's captain of a cross-country team in Walpole. So he had to run captain's practice in the morning. So I didn't get him until like 11 o'clock most days. But he was great to work with. He seemed to really enjoy it, but I'll let you speak to that. And he's a birder, so yeah, I often had binoculars with him. So it was right in his wheelhouse. And he got some good exercise, got to learn how to use some tools that we had out there that he probably hadn't used before. And trying to think, we didn't pin any relock down, I don't think. But it was great having. Unfortunately, it all ended too soon because school came around and we lost him at the near the end of August because he had a week of cross-country camp. But I had a blast working with him, and I loved his enthusiasm. And I mean, when we put in the new trail, I mean, we were like kind of high-fiving each other because it was fun putting in a new trail. It was a break from the mundaneness of weed whacking, just assessing the conditions of the trails. But that, I'll let you talk.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to work on the trails and for inviting me to this meeting. I really had a lot of fun learning what the process of trail building and trail maintenance, and especially the Vanderbilt site was really good because we went back over multiple days, lockers first, and then we went back with the chainsaw. And I remember there's that one log that was just giant. We burned through the whole battery in the big saw. And then you sent me an image a couple weeks later. We've gotten through it.
Yeah, we had to throw. It's one of those logs that was laying on the ground, and I knew cut through it was going to be a little dicey without getting the saw jammed. So we got the saw jammed, and we were able to get some logs and wedge it and pry it enough so that we could get underneath it to lift it up enough to get it out. But it's also when the battery dies. Wasn't a bad time for it to jam. But yeah, a couple of days later, it got cut through. So you guys who went on that walk on Sunday would have walked by that log.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping next summer, before he goes off to college and seniors get out early and there'll be no captain's practice for cross country. I'm hoping for that next summer. So I can get him like early in June and go June right through September.
Yeah. Have you had an opportunity to try the cross-country trail in Norwood? One by the middle school?
Yes, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes.
What do you think? That was an Eagle Scout project.
I like it.
And you guys run behind the high school, the forest?
Yes, the Walpole Town.
Yeah, yep. Oh, good.
Which the Walpole Trails folks work on. And
Yep.
Did you and I leave that we helped put that water bar in on the cross country.
Right behind the high
Right
school.
behind the high school, where bar goes across the trail going up the hill that we rode it with our friend Gary Riggett from the Walpole Trails Committee. So that was a learning experience for us on the Walpole trails.
Roger also helped out at one of the farmers markets. That's where I saw Roger for the first time, and you got to see community outreach and check that out. So we do appreciate everything that you've done. Hopefully we can get you back in here next year or school break or any time. Be great. You let us, I know Joe is of the same mind and you may have already done something, but if there's something we can do for you, like a letter of recommendation or anything, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's on my to-do list.
Okay. And I know the same is true with the folks in the office, Silex and Sarah and Kylie and those guys. So anything you think you need, let us know. But thank you. Thanks for your help. What are you going to study? Do you know?
I'm trying to do mechanical engineering.
Okay, perfect.
So you should come help us on the bridges.
Bridge building.
Yeah.
There we go.
So I saw a report this week of it was like the top 20 majors for earning salary earnings in the 5 years after college. And the top 3 were not in the order: electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and chemical engineering.
Not
So-
environmental engineering?
Not environment, no,
Bioengineering?
not bio. So so far so good. Go ahead and make that. You can donate your second million to the NOAA Trails Committee. How's that? Okay.
Time to replace the bridges.
Perfect. Yeah, but thank you. Thanks for coming tonight.
I think Walpole has something to say about it, right?
You'll have to give $500,000 to Walpole.
All right, fine. All right, and there's a possibility that George might join us for a future meeting,
Yes.
maybe? Okay, great. Okay. That's great. Next item on the agenda, upcoming events. Today we had the second to last farmers market. So it ends. Farmers market has been going since June. It runs June through October 15th, every Tuesday afternoon. And Lee put in yeoman's work for the majority of the summer season. Today's market, we had Lee, Vic, Beth, and myself taking care of the booth. We had a lot of people stop by as always. We actually had 2 people from Walpole stop in. One of them works in Norwood, but the other one just happened to be going by the farmers market. So it's a great way to there's a lot of give and take. People give us ideas at pretty much every time we're there. So there's a lot of interaction and a lot of suggestions that go both ways. That will end next week. So thank you to everybody who jumped in, and I know pretty much everybody has been there at one time or another. So thank you. Let's see, the next item, pending item, Meadow Street, Nick Brewer's water crossing is scheduled with the Conservation Commission for October 16th, next Wednesday. Nick went in front of the commission last month, but the commission needs the state to identify a filing number, that it's a state filing number and not the town's filing number. And because of the timing and dealing with the state, we did not have that as of last meeting. But we're guaranteed by the state and by the Conservation Commission that we will have that in time for next week's meeting. Nick is busting and ready to go, and pretty much everything he needs is in place. Kylie did tell me, which I had never heard before, but at that last meeting, Kylie told me that there was it's either a 7-day or a 10-day waiting period after the meeting, after the Concom gives their approval. So he really won't be able to, if we think of October 16th, so he really won't be able to get at it until, like, actually start construction until probably the weekend of the first, second, and third of November.
Is it 10 days, 2 weeks?
It's either 7 days or 10 days, and I don't know if that's okay.
So
think it was 10, okay. It was 10.
16 to the 26th.
It was 10 days. And then given the fact that he has to get his recruits and most of his recruits go to school, it makes it tougher. I'll say it twice, but one thing we need to keep in mind, and it may or may not impact, it's an important factor for Nick or any of the work that we're doing on Meadow or the Neponset Trail. But the hunting season has started on and theoretically around the airport property, only at the airport. So we'll have to kind of keep that in mind. We're not, whether we're on airport property or not, we'll just have to keep that in mind.
But this is not, right? This is further back on the Concom land?
This is further back towards the Concom land. Yeah.
But if people are hunting out there, it's saying it's like really.
Right, the
good,
hunters
yeah.
might not know exactly where the boundary is.
Where-
Yeah, hunters are supposed to, among many other things, there's a buffer. I think it's I don't know if it's 100 yards or 200 feet or whatever, but they have to be 200 feet from a residence, and they have to be firing away from the residence. So like into the property, if you will. But nobody wants to take that chance anyway. They cannot hunt on a Sunday. So the airport has followed, they've adopted the state guidelines. Like at the Blue Hills Reservation, they've adopted that deer culling the herd process as they have in previous years. So there's a set of guidelines. Is all of those guidelines are in print, but they cannot hunt on Sundays. So Sunday, if we're going to take a walk, Sunday might be the day to do it.
So the woods is good.
Yeah.
That's right. They hold it.
Worship.
They hold it
So-
dear.
Would that make Sunday, November 3rd, the most likely day for the,
I don't know. I haven't talked to Nick about it yet, but so that's where that stands. We that's Meadow Street. We've actually just getting back to the power line at Vanderbilt. So we filed also on the 16th of October. We did file a request from the Conservation Commission to allow us to put that temporary crossing. We're hoping that that's in like a easy approval, but I hate to say that. But we'll hopefully get approval to do that, even though we've temporarily already done it. But so that is coming up that night as well.
Should be easy because it's the same design as the 7 others have already approved.
Yep. Yes.
The one out there now is just sit on the ground. All we're really going to be doing is putting some sleepers underneath it and pinning it down with the rebar. So.
Yep. And then when we get further into this meeting, we'll talk about the Neponset Wall we took last week with Kelly.
Okay.
Good. We did have there's a question mark next to the next agenda item, Progress Norwood costume walk. Excuse me. So far we haven't arrived at a date. I did have October 19th on there with a question mark, and we haven't confirmed or denied that that's going to happen. But in the meantime, the Recreation Department is having their, make sure I get the name right, pumpkin float and lantern walk on Sunday, October 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. So that's this Sunday coming up, 6 to 8. And they did ask us, as we did last year, they did ask us to, or 2 things. They offered us to, if we wanted to basically put up a table similar to farmers market, and we can give out pamphlets and answer any questions that people might have. Literally last year, most of us were actually at the table, but they literally had a couple of hundred people at that attending that. And then they asked us to take a walk, like lead people on a walk, basically just down to the lower field and back. It's kind of it's a quick down and back. I did talk to Marie Kidd today. They're trying to get some kind of spooky lighting along the way, and just to try to make that a thing. So if people are available, that's this weekend coming up is Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday. So, but not everybody has that off, but it's a long weekend for some, and that event is Sunday from 6 to 8 p.m.
The question on that is with all of the work going on in the Hosbrook area, where are people gonna park?
Yep.
So how do we make sure nobody gets hurt?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. The rec department has already, I don't know if it's on their website or not. They don't say, they don't indicate immediately where they want people to park. But they've, since that work began, the parking lot at the Haas Pool is off limits. It's all fenced in. But they tore down two houses between the pool and the Morse house, and they've hot topped those areas. So that's one parking area. And then if you drive into the Coakley and turn left along the front of the school, is 75 more parking spots there. So they will have people guiding folks where to park. You can also park along Washington Street.
Thank you.
Sure. In our, so if you walk in from Washington Street, the ponds are on the right. Our table is on the left on that gravel path that leads to the backfields. So that's where that's going to be.
We'll need to set up well before 6 o'clock though.
Yep. So they begin, their program starts, it runs from 6 to 8. So if we can get all set up by 5:30, 5:35, 5 o'clock. Thank you. You got that, Beth? Did you, are you 5? Yep. And we have enough stuff they're going to provide the lanterns and other stuff. And then the only other thing firm that we have on the calendar, November 2nd, is that I mentioned that before, the Norwood Public Schools Wellness Fair, and it's on a Saturday. It runs 9 a.m. to noon, and it's at the high school. And it's a wellness fair. They want whoever attends as presenters. The whole, obviously the theme is wellness, and they want to, so in our case, we would put together a package, and some part of it is the same presentation as at Norwood Day of the Farmers Market, but it revolves around wellness. So how outside exercise and fresh air and communing with nature and et cetera, how that falls into under the wellness category. So if we can kind of do some brainstorming, that would help.
I was thinking what our intern does of birding. Not a lot of young people do that, but it's not only very relaxing, but it's educating your brain too, right? You learn new things to identify what birds to track.
Yeah, it's good.
It's also hard to see them in the first place, even with the field glasses.
Okay, yeah, it's a great idea. Roger, where do you go birding?
Mostly I go to Norfolk a lot. There's a wildlife sanctuary, Stony Brook. It's
I know.
really good at a lot of birds.
Nice.
And really anywhere wooded and with water, birds like a lot. So anywhere, town forest. And in Norwood, I've been to, I'm trying to think, any of the trails actually had a lot of birds this summer.
What's the white birds we saw when we were in the canoe up by the airport? Big white birds.
The egret.
Egrets.
Yeah.
I've seen a few egrets out there. Yeah. All white and nice.
Great. Gene, great idea. I know Craig is into birding as well, I think. Okay. We're going to next couple of items on the agenda, just to play catch up on the subcommittee reports. So Brian, do you want to jump into a brief discussion on wayfinding?
Okay. It's okay if I plug in? That work?
Sure, I think. Yep. You know what you can,
Okay,
you
while
wanna-
I'm talking,
Brian, you want to just see if you just plug that into your computer, does that automatically pick up?
it might.
Let's see if that works.
Oh, yeah, no, this USB, so I'd have to plug directly into the.
Okay.
There we go. Let's see if that shows.
I don't know if it's that flexible.
It went straight into HDMI 1. We can plug it in there.
Okay. Well, let's bag that idea then. Sorry.
All right. Well, while I'm getting set up, let's take this back. Give me a second.
Okay.
I can let you know that after I've been working on getting all of the wayfinding stuff and decisions all on a presentation slideshow that we can do for the Concom at least. We don't know if we're going to do one for the selectmen or anything. Joe has already been helping me. Joe Greeley has already been helping me try and make it more succinct. I'm down to 36 slides, but that's still way too much. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just to, if I can get the, let's see if I just do play. Let's see if it'll show up there. There you go. Okay, so that's the first slide for, actually there's one just before that. That'll just be up there while we're waiting for the presentation to start. And then the first official slide, that's my daughter there. She's taking her own picture there out at the poolside. And then I have different parts of the presentation that go through where I kind of introduce it. And then of course, here's our subcommittee gathering. And I'm going to get that group photo from Joe Greeley that he took it after the August meeting, and that'll go there. And so what I'm going to be doing, so here's one of the slides, a couple of slides we got rid of. We're going to talk quickly about, what were the group's parameters in terms of setting up the way, some future considerations, what were we thinking when we set up the trails, the different aspects of it that we wanted to follow. I went a little bit too far back. There we go. So what did we want to convey, where and how often we're going to do the markings and so forth. So what was behind it? And then I go into a set of, saying what our recommendations were and what they boiled down to in the 5 elements and so forth. So, here's our talking about the Kies designs and some of the pros and cons we found and how we arrived at a design that we liked. And so I have, the 2 examples of antennas and so forth. So it goes on like that to talk about, the bulletin board. Our first kiosk would be put there at the new Bernie Cooper Park, right at the entrance to the outdoor classroom. We were recommending, that we have service plaques recognizing Eagle Scout projects, the You Are Here maps on the posts, the color-coded system, and so forth. You get the idea that each of these slides is designed to present an aspect of it. That's an old slide there, as you can tell, because that one is from the old one when we were thinking of doing painting before we went to doing other markers. And this slide is in progress, so I need to do some work there. So talking about the Carsonite posts and the different aspects of them. And then this is one I'm going to just do as a handout. I'm not going to probably do this slide. Let me go back one. Okay, the next slide, where'd I go? This slide has a lot of detail on it. So that's just going to be a handout, rather than going over the particulars and then talking about different ways that we can do with the signs and so forth. We figured, remember, we came to a conclusion as a committee, we didn't need to rate difficulty since the trails are pretty straightforward. So anyway, so that gives you an idea of, what we're thinking. And the idea is to have this then to present to Concom again, Joe Greeley is going to work with me to kind of, because he's got the experience of what works and what doesn't, working with the Concom and how to take and put our best foot forward to say, you know, here's our recommendations. Here's what we're thinking. We want your go ahead. So. I'm scheduled for November, this one coming up the 16th. They meet every 3 weeks. So the next one is going to be the first Wednesday in November. And that's when I'm scheduled kind of late in the presentation. So it's the day after Election Day, since I will be probably up late watching election returns. I'm going to be tired on Wednesday night, but we'll do that. And then, so this should go back to 2 years now, right?
Yes.
So that's, now there are a couple of things that I need, from the group, and, I'll be contacting the wayfinding people, probably send them a, you know, a mock-up when I'm closer to finished of this, send everybody a PDF so they can give me their feedback on it. And, there are a couple of things that we didn't have on hand. Now, I didn't show you there, on my computer. I can see my presenter note, so I know what I want to talk about. You only saw the actual slide presentation. I have things in there like, what is the cost of those wayfinding signs? But there's some other things that I need to get, like I'd like somebody to take the materials list for the kiosks and do a current estimate, because I think ours is a year old. So like just a function of doing that. I was going to ask Chris and Alex if they'd be willing to do it, since that was their sub project from the committee. If they'd be willing to, you know, to just find out what the prices are on that. I also, Joe Greeley, you can tell people that we kind of reached a dead end talking to Walpole about the tags, the actual colored tags.
Yep. So the Walpole Trails Committee had gone out, and they've been in business for almost 25 years. So this is literally years ago. They went out and they put trail markers on all their trails, and they used this probably 2 to 2.5 inch. As it turns out, it's what do you call it? Window blind material.
So it's a vinyl.
So it's a hard vinyl. And they got extras from a company in Norwood that made window blinds. And they got, I don't know what kind of, like what form, what condition the tabs, they call them the tabs after the vinyl blinds had been cut. But the company is out of business, and they do have some of those left, but not a lot of them. So there's not enough. And when they got them,
they wouldn't match our scheme anyway.
And they wouldn't match our scheme anyway. They did originally get different colors from this company, and every time the company ran another round,
They got different colors.
they got different colors. So they used whatever they got. But they pretty much have spent their whole inventory of window blinds. So
So we need to find a fresh vendor.
Yeah, so we need to go out and find another vinyl manufacturer, somebody who's got stray cutouts.
Now I know we didn't specifically settle, because for this point about presenting our, you know, here's our goals and here's what we're thinking. We hadn't, like, whether we were going to do some sort of tin or metal versus vinyl kind of thing. So, you know, we've got some options there depending on what's available. We can find out what we want to use. We want the Concom to essentially agree on, you know, a number of the basics of it. And then, you know, we're going to learn by doing. I suspect with the idea that we're going to go out to Ending and set up a preliminary one, and then say, you know, I imagine we'll learn things as we place things. One of the things we hadn't even considered till Craig Austin mentioned it at the August meeting is those, how do we orient those "You Are Here" signs? Like, do they go north-south? Do they get oriented toward the direction you're heading from the "You Are Here" sign? Hadn't even occurred to us. We just thought you plan it down. It's a map on a thing. You can figure it out. So I'm sure there's going to be things like that that are going to occur to us as we get going. but we want to get going because that's what, you know, that's how we're going to learn. And so, you know, there's still some stuff that's, that we won't say have price quotes yet. But as long as the Concom approves the system and the basics of it.
I think that last one's straightforward. I mean, if you're at an intersection at a facing the sign should be oriented in the direction you're looking at.
So the way
So
the
if
trail
goes to the right, it should be, the post should be positioned so that the trail that's going to the
trail's
right
on the
is the
right
one
on
to
the
the
map.
right, not
Right.
flipped around backwards.
Right.
It's, so you just line it
So that's
up
probably, yeah.
based on the intersection.
So, and then I do want to get from Joe Barrett the Carsonite pole plan and the costs. I think we pretty much said there was only one colored one that we were thinking if we were maybe along the waterway. They're thinking, but mostly we're going to
Well, if
keep
it's the
brown.
Coyote Trail, we'll just put up the blue ones along the meadows. You'd see
Yeah.
it stand out better than a brown.
Mhm.
If it's not part of the Coyote Trail, we thought we're going to put brown ones and we
Brown.
could put whatever
Yeah.
decals on it for whatever
Right.
trail that was.
And the advantage that we have, the color coding is only needed, you know, that's kind of one of the aspects of our trail system because there are only, I think, 2 places where we have enough trails where there would be color coding anyway. Most of the trails are pretty straightforward. We can use standard markers and just say this way.
Well, a lot of the trail, you know, big, long sections of a lot of trails are going to have these on
Right.
trees or a smaller version of these decals. You can have this, Brian.
Okay?
On that,
If I talk, can people see?
you could stick that right on the, you know, it'd have to be, it's got to be 3.2 inches. That's bigger than that. On the Carsonite posts.
I did. Oh, is that how big does that have to be smaller than this to fit on the car? Or does this fit on the
It's
car?
got to be 3.2 inches. It's smaller than that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's more than 4.5.
Yeah, I didn't get to that slide. There is a Coyote Trail mention that essentially says on any places, any trails where the Coyote Trail crosses over an existing trail that's already marked, these would just be added to the post or, you know, added to the markings. And,
Great.
So,
Yeah, we want to try to, Brian and I have talked about this. We want to try to get, hopefully convince or have a good dialogue with the Conservation Commission and make sure that they're comfortable with what the subcommittee has done. And not only what the subcommittee has done, but also what materials we're using and just to make sure that they comply with, you know, various wetlands if there are such things as, there's guidelines, but there's a guideline and then there's compliance. So we just want to make sure that they are comfortable with it.
well, one of the big advantages of that slide that I said is going to be a handout with all those details. It talks about how it's used at, you know, state and federal parks and forests and you know, and how, you know, it's environmentally friendly and can be put in almost any soils and it's, you know, so it's got a lot of that, you know, if you go to the Concom, you say, look, this is how environmentally friendly and how this is perfectly suited to that.
Yep.
I'm saying with the Carsonite posts, they're all over.
Yeah.
What's the place in Easton? The DCR Borderland State
Borderlands,
Parks, got them everywhere, right? The power lines has survey markers all over the place now. Fiberglass survey markers, all the easements, not all of the easements, but a bunch of them have them.
So just to give you a couple of dates, Brian, so that you're meeting with them, you're already on the agenda? Did
Yeah,
you?
I'm already on the
Okay.
agenda. They said
So November-
probably
that-
10 or 15 minutes late in the night, because they've got
Okay.
other agenda items that you know, the precedent ones where they're required to make certain, you know, decisions, and
Compliance, sure.
judgments and rulings and whatever.
So that's November 6th. So I'll say your goal, I guess, is to try to get the materials to them no later than the 1st.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Carly, who I spoke to today because of, you know, to find out, because they have the next one would be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but she thinks they're probably going to reschedule that. They'll either push it back. They'll do it a week earlier. They'll do it in December. If it was, you know, so we'd have that option to maybe do the mid-November one if for some reason we were ready on the 1st. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be ready.
Okay.
How many days
Great.
in advance do they
And,
need?
And what she said was, she needs to send out the agenda on Friday before the Wednesday meeting.
Right.
And that if I get her the things that early that week or midweek, that's plenty of time. I'd kind of like to have it ready
Midweek.
2 weeks ahead of time.
Midweek the previous week.
Right, midweek
Yeah.
the previous week.
So I said Friday the 1st, which is when they distribute their information.
Right.
But if she's saying the Wednesday before, that
Well,
would,
she just said, as long as you get it to me before that, and I put in my thing, knowing how sometimes I need an extra day, I set Wednesday after. If I get it to her Thursday.
so that's October 30th. So, okay. Awesome. Good. Thank you.
I think I had it.
Joe, do you want to talk about Tired?
Uh,
Just update status and,
oh, yeah, sure. So, well, two things. Once we decide we can order these or some version of these from some other company, who cares where we get it from? We can start putting these on the Tire Trail strands everywhere, like especially on Endine, there's a bunch of already existing posts. We can just screw them right onto those posts on both sides, so you see it from either direction. If it's one of the trails in Endine, it's the Tire Trail. Same thing with the Pine Tree Forest. In terms of maintenance on the trails, it's been working out pretty good since a couple of months ago when, you know, I started drumming up some support, but like in the last in the last month, we basically got all of Meadow Street, the Neponset River Trail, all the way up to Purgatory Brook behind Granger is completely weed whacked, fully wide. Every trench is bone dry. You can walk right across them. That never happens. So I want to encourage everyone to walk out there now.
Enjoy it.
If we got any of those 3 hurricanes that all went up the Mississippi Valley, we would have been out of luck for months at a time. And any storm, that condition will occur again. We'll be out of luck. Lee and I did University Ave, Granger, all the way up to the skating club on today. Another place with a lot of meadows. It was like 4 hours of work, and we did the Metro Cabinet from Purgatory to University Ave. So the one thing that's glowing is the golf course behind the skating club and behind Analog. And there's one little meadow on the other side of the skating club that ties into the Purgatory Brook Trail, heading down towards the Inwood Shelter. It's a small one, but it hasn't been touched since June, so I know it's at least 5 feet tall. But Joe and Kevin were out with me staking the trenches. So we staked the trenches, the 3 big bridge locations on the Neponset River Trail on Neponset Street. So they're all staked. Block Carly out there. They've all been, she's visited them all. The measurements are all there. So that was step 1. That drawing goes to the engineering department. They create 1 drawing or 3 drawings, whatever they decide for those 3 bridges. We're hoping to bundle those 3 bridges in as 1 permit.
Is Jerry Hopcroft helping us do that?
No, he designed all the bridges, but this is
Right,
just,
this is just us.
this is just staking where it is and to get, so we can get the permit to build them. And we need a drawing basically showing where on relative to the river are these 3 bridges, water crossings going.
And Joe, is that gonna have to do the same kind of thing? It needs a Norwood number, it needs a state Concom number or something like that?
It's gonna be the same as Nick's, only it's,
Nick's,
we're
yeah.
just trying to
Nick's.
bundle 3 together instead of doing 1 at a time. So instead of having 4 visits with the same abutters, the same property, we're trying to do 1 visit for those 3. And then since it's low, I actually staked the large Vanderbilt trench because
Nice.
I've never been able to walk across that before. I've been able to walk across it for a couple of months. Roger's probably walked across that in August. But so that's all good that all that got re-whacked. And again, I encourage you to, anyone, it's 4 miles out and back. If you do the whole loop at Meadow Street on the way, but it's
Nice.
yeah, and it's gorgeous now with the leaves starting to turn color. I haven't really seen it picking up, color picking up on the river, but that's inevitable. I mean, next trip down, the river might be all as colorful as Brian's first slide on this PowerPoint. Foxbrook.
So just to give you a flavor for what Joe has put together and is managing. So each one of these locations on Upper Meadow Street, the Blue Trail on Meadow Street, let's say. So each one of these locations has an outline of where the stakes are. These are all requirements, not only of the engineering department, but also the Conservation Commission. So each one of these locations has four stake locations. There's coding as far as orientation of the stake and relative to the riverbank and relative to the water and the crossing location. So this is a package that Joe prepared to send not only to Carly, but also to the engineering department. So in each one of these three locations, he's got this same information, an outline of where the stakes are, what the conditions are, and where it is relative to the riverbank. So just so you know, so that, each one of these, Joe, in wearing his hat of a professional engineer and draftsman and various other quality control manager or whatever. So each one of these locations is, well laid out. He's got GPS coordinates in here and everything else. So, do appreciate obviously all the work that Joe does, especially, but everybody that's on Joe's field teams. But that's a result of it. But all of this information is information that we have to submit, and Joe's got it down to a science already. So we'll be rolling the rest of those out.
So we can follow Joe's lead.
Follow Joe's lead.
And we really want to push getting the engineering drawings now, because it's in their best interest to be able to walk out there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're going to be taking them out in the canoe.
Yeah.
Because once that water gets high, you can't get across those trenches easily.
And even with the storm coming across Florida and stuff, do we anticipate getting a lot of rain up there?
I don't think we're getting any.
I
10-day
don't know.
I think it's going to go out to
South Street.
cut across the peninsula and out to the ocean.
Yeah. It's a big high pressure area sitting over
Yeah.
top of.
So in fact, Lee and I were at the skating club stream today, where the University Ave Trail from Granger meets the skating club. And I was thinking, I'm going to have somebody on one side of the skating club stream, two people putting in two stakes over there and two on the other side, and they have to be thrown this 100-yard tape measure over the stream. Right now, if you go down about 100 yards, two blow-down trees, it's crossable because our guy Lee walked. I'll let you tell people what you did this week, but no. But you can cross one of those blowdowns. If some people can cross it, especially if you have trucking poles. It's a blown down tree. It's small, but it's doable. Or if you have high enough boots, you can walk across the stream. But again, a rare occasion. So otherwise, we're going to have people on both sides of the stream, like I said. And you come in from different sections. They're both about 3/4 of a mile from the car, from two different parking spots. So, but we might as well stake it while it's easy to do. I can do the drawing, and then at least we'll have that trailer. On the other hand, we're not going to be building those bridges anytime soon. We got to get the other ones done first, so it's not the end of the world if we don't do those right away. It might be
We don't
might be a
lose
year
anything
out.
by staking, though, when we
Yeah.
get at it.
Except that if you got to restake it,
Yeah.
you might. I mean, the drawings probably won't change, and we could probably make the same measurements and put them in the same places if the stakes got destroyed. You'd be surprised how many wooden stakes out there get gnawed on by, I don't know if they're beavers, I don't know if they're coyotes, but something's doing some
But
gnawing.
even if the stakes get eaten or if they get washed away, that's good data for us in terms of like, we're putting a bridge in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Join the bridge.
Yeah, I don't think we need to sell that.
I'm just saying, like if,
It's good to know, though.
Yeah.
take protective measures, right? Like on the edges, we put sheet metal around or, it'd be good data.
If the spots are accessible, it's and you have two people, you can do the stakes in 15
Yeah.
minutes. You know.
Um,
Sometimes making it accessible takes days, but we're in good shape right now.
Um, let's see, thank you.
Mhm.
And this maintenance, Joe has likewise put together, we've seen this in a couple of places, but this maintenance summary report. So this is that same one that Beth had incorporated into the prior meeting minutes. But this is another document, that's 6 pages. Joe's get it down to the approximate distance, like the hundredth of a mile here. But once we get all these trails, the good news is we're branching out, literally. The bad news is we're branching out because that also means that we have to maintain it. There's not the little night ferries that go about after midnight maintaining it. We have to make sure that we're doing it. So the better organized we are. And you said, I think you have given this to Kylie, or you're going
Yes.
to?
So this is a subset. This is the 6 pages. So this is basically the tables, and what's been, scroll down to the next page. You'll see. So the next table is each month gets its own column, how many hours it took to do it, who went out and did it, whether it's one person or 2 person. Then you go down, there's some notes about that month there. There's Roger, that's the log that we were talking about earlier that it was stuck.
Oh, yeah, we did go
So I
past,
didn't go through the
we
first
did go
time.
past that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you go scroll down to the next table, you start, it's up to date up to now. So you see October 8th was Lee and I today. We did 4 hours today. And pretty much everything's been done at least twice this year, except for the golf course, which hasn't been done once. There's a couple of places that have only been done once, but we're in good shape in terms of finishing up. The yellow highlight there is some stuff where I talk about the fact that it may have taken us 4 or 5 hours to do in June because I didn't get out there to June. I wasn't out there in April or May, and it was as high as my waist or higher. And because I didn't get out there again until August or September, it's that high. So I use the analogy of it's like shoveling wet snow that's plowed in versus powder that you're dusting off if you stay on top of it. Based on all the hours we've logged, really confident that if we had 2 people going out there 10 hours a week all summer long, everything would be brushing off the party of snow. It'll take no time to do, it'd be easy to do. So we just need 2 people. When it's not raining, yeah. We didn't, yeah.
Well, and did we come up with any volunteers, maybe from Menorah Day, of people that might be interested in that too?
We did run a, in fact, I brought it for another purpose, but we did have a sign-up sheet on Noah Day. One sheet is for just general questions, etc. There's another one here. I won't say his last name, but Isaiah has signed up and wants to do trail maintenance. We got over 40 names, and everybody wrote in. This one person, group hike trail cleanup. Another person is interested in group hikes. So we did get a fair amount at Moa Day of people to join the crowd. So
There was one guy that wanted to bring in his work from his office.
Oh,
Bring the lead back up on it.
do we have him on the list?
I told him to write it down, and he write it down.
there was nobody that said, I have my posse to come with me.
Really? 'Cause I
Um,
specifically,
But we did get several people that said trail maintenance.
I mean, I'm sure one of
Yeah.
those will be the ones.
Yep, probably.
I stood over him too.
He didn't move the pen in his hand.
How
And
did he
right.
use the whip?
Okay.
I have a maintenance related question. So where are the keys to the shed at the community garden?
There are no keys, it's a combination.
Oh, so we could just, okay,
Yeah.
We won't
Yeah.
tell that.
right, we're not gonna say, yeah, okay, but you tell me the combination, then I can just, you know,
Yes.
if I turn out to have a spare couple hours, I say, oh, I'm gonna run down.
And I've
Is
got real detailed instructions on how to reline the weed whacker.
Yeah.
How the best way to put fuel in it.
Yes.
Because I have a preferred method of using
Right.
the high test gas in the can, the 15-1 premix, to fire it up initially. And then once it's been running and it runs out, I'm using the plastic gas from the gas station with the oil mixture in it, which is less than half the price.
Are the batteries kept charged? You mentioned that some of the things are battery powered.
There's no
Like the
batteries
saw?
for well, the saw is not there.
Oh, that's not there. Okay.
The weed
not
whackers are
shed then.
gas.
Yeah.
And these are only the display here is only the tire trail on the east side
Of Route 1.
of Route 1. It doesn't include any
And
German
the
Brook
German
or
Brook,
Shattuck
yeah.
or, I have on my list, I need to grab the weed whacker, for instance, and walk up to the top of the landfill and
Yeah.
cut a path down the side of the landfill again. But to that point, Chris, it's, if you find you have a couple of spare hours or even just an hour,
Yeah.
there are definitely some of these, the smaller ones, Shattuck and Hennessy, for instance, anybody could just go out there for an hour.
Much as I like, I'm just gonna go take a hike. I'm not gonna do any work. It wouldn't be that much harder to take the hike,
Right.
bring the weed whacker for an hour, right? Like,
Yeah, as long as it's not a grassy meadow, it's a pretty light lift.
Yeah.
And
Among other things, the reason we went, Joe and I and Carly went out last week to walk up the Blue Trail, the Neponset Trail off Meadow Street. Carly asked if she could get a copy of this, that's why I just asked if Joe sent it to her. And the reason is twofold. One, they wanted the Conservation Commission, Carly and the Conservation Commission want to know approximately how long it takes to maintain it. A, because of their own records, but B, if we go back to them, either if we ask them or if they have spare money next year, for instance, they might get somebody who's almost as much of a rock star as Roger. And
it'll be Roger, we hope.
Yeah.
Roger and plus
yeah.
one.
But they're always looking for ways to
Energetic insurance.
supplement the maintenance, especially.
So the key thing about this table is you can see all the little decimal point lengths, and then the total is in the red text up above. But this is a subset of a bigger document, which is like 18 pages, I think. On the there's a map of so that 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, all the way down to what's it, 15 at the bottom. There's a little map with the exact length of each one of those segments. So there's 15 segments, 15 plus segments, because of all the A's and B's and C's. There's probably about 20 little maps out there for the exact lengths, and shows where they are. So that's in the full-blown document. So that's what I gave to the planning department. It's the full document.
and again, this will all be so much easier when we get some water crossings, right? Because part of the reason why after the big airport ditch, it didn't get weed whacked for so long is because we couldn't get there for so long.
Well, the first time Lee and I did the far end, Pat, we canoed out to the last leg from the north one way up to Purgatory. We canoed to get to the next one south of there to get to the large airport trench, because we couldn't get past the large airport trench. And but this time we were able to walk to all of them, which was great. So, and we figured in a normal summer we'd have to canoe more often than not. So it's important to have the
No
boat.
such thing as a normal summer anymore. You know,
Yeah.
like, we've learned many of the past. We just finished our third summer of you doing this, right? Like, and they've all been completely different summers.
Yeah.
Absolute drought, absolute deluge, surprise drought at the end of it, right? Like,
Yeah, today we're not as low as we were 2 years ago, but we're really close.
Yeah.
We're within 6 inches, I think. And 2 years ago was the lowest it's been since they started recording.
Right.
The river height.
Yep.
A couple of housekeeping questions. Joe, could you hand me the vinyl version of the logo there? I know, is this like the version you like? The nice thing, like, we've never had an official, I know the subcommittee kind of put it off to vote on it. Do we want to
No, we accepted
formally
it.
approve this?
We accepted
Oh,
it with
you did
Emerald Necklace.
September
on
meeting
there.
or?
We accepted it with Emerald Necklace, but now we're taking Emerald Necklace off, so.
Oh, okay. So, you know, I guess if we would say that's official. Now, is this ceramic? Or is that plastic? It's interesting. It feels almost ceramic.
I thought it was metal, and I think it's a little.
Oh, it
metal
could
on
be
the
metal.
outside,
Maybe
and
that's
I think
why.
it's got a vinyl printed skin on it, yeah.
All right. Well, I just wanted to make a
know
motion,
it's
I
metal.
guess, that we formally adopt this new logo, if that's,
I think
Works for me for the Blazers, yeah.
yeah, for the Blazes, you know.
We are working on some other options for clothing, so that, like, you can't necessarily stitch that if you wanted to have embroidery. So I've got some other options that the guy who designed this, George, who might be coming next month, has come up with. But
So,
this is good for the.
yeah, so
Blazers.
this is great. I like that. I do want to talk to you about, like, is this the kind of thing we might want to get? Is this a vendor that we would get for the rest of our trail markers, or is this
yeah.
going to be much more expensive? Because this is a really nice.
I got prices on those if you want to
Okay.
shop around and get other prices.
All right, yeah, no, I'll
Go
talk to you
for it.
about that. The vendor for.
But just while we're here having this, right? One of the things about having some swag,
Mm.
whether it's hats or shirts and stuff, it's an opportunity for us to generate a little cash, right? And I don't know, I was sitting there looking at this while it was sitting on my table, and I thought, hey,
Coaster.
looks like a drink coaster.
Yeah.
I mean, we could sell these at Norwood Day. I know my house would be loaded with them, but I mean, I wouldn't be this material, but you know, we could have this printed on like a stone coaster if we
Sure.
wanted to too. And
I could probably make
every
it.
once in a while, it just,
Yeah, it's two colors.
yeah,
Screen print that easy.
And I guess one more housekeeping thing on the.
Good.
Because
great.
we never got
I'm
we
sitting
never.
from eating a.
Okay, hold on, guys. We never got formally to where, because Joe's just been going gangbusters and getting this tie-out trail way ahead of the time. I remember with the subcommittee, they says, we're going to decide how to put these things up and where they're going to go on the trail, you know, years from now, so we don't have to worry about it as a subcommittee. So we probably ought to discuss at what point we feel the trail's ready for at least a significant section. It sounds like the eastern section is going to be pretty darn, like, I didn't want to put these up prematurely so that people would like have a trail that dead ends and then you have to find the next one and then it dead ends. Like, are we going to have enough of it connected that we can actually start putting these up?
you've got all the information for the east side with everything except Keswick, right?
Right.
Or in anything that might be on private property, like beyond Keswick up to Monster Mini Golf, you know, and that's just.
But we can't connect Peswick yet to Meadow Street. There's not a way to, in other words, is there a way to say?
You got to
that
cross the
trail
river to do that. So.
Right now, the only way to connect A to B is to walk down Vanderbilt, take a right on River Ridge, go out on Route 1 and then back up Dean
Got it.
Street.
Yeah, I didn't know if
there's-
there was a way.
there's no way
near
to
the power
connect.
lines, if you went from Peswick to the power lines and then got out through the Vanderbilt or
Nope.
whatever to
Any-
connect.
anyway-
Meadow Street. There's no way to do that.
The only way to cross Route is Route 1
Got it.
right now in Ponset.
So then the question, I guess, runs at what point do we want to start putting these up to where?
Now, as soon as you're done with the Concom meeting and the approved stuff, we can start putting it.
But you know what I mean about not wanting to confuse people? 'Cause
I
if
think
put
we
it
just got an
in
answer.
one place and-
No one's going to walk the whole. There's only one guy I know who's going to walk the whole.
I would like to
High
join
on
you at some
trail.
point and do the whole 22 miles at some point.
It's not
Um,
22 miles.
Oh, it's not 22?
No, it's
Like
not
19 and a half.
16 and a
It's
half?
not 16, it's 17.7, but only because you went through the tunnel, not according to the trail.
I'll go remeasure it next.
All right,
A
so,
couple of 10-mile hikes might be.
so let's take these in order. So number one, Brian just he asked the question about have we officially voted? And just for the sake of officially voting, let's officially vote, just so in case we hadn't yet. So all those in favor of adopting the yellow over blue tie-out trail scheme? Say aye. Anyone opposed? Unanimous? Even Roger's in favor of that. So thank you. And we do need to go through the
Concom.
Conservation
So
Commission.
can
Wait a minute,
you-
whoa,
Okay.
hold it. So, but in addition, the Concom only owns half the town. So in addition, based on that result, we don't have to go in front of the Board of Selectmen unless they want us to.
Right.
But we need to get their approval of this.
Okay.
So which is another reason why it's important for you to update your presentation. Probably the best bet is to send it to Tony and then just let him gauge whether or not it has to proceed, or if he could just wave his magic wand. And
After all,
Make
we
that-
are an advisory committee.
we are,
Right.
and it's important for us to advise frequently, Brian.
So then, I was gonna ask, do you have that in like a, JPEG form or a vector graphic that I can, because I don't have that in, I don't have that, I want to add that to my slide presentation. Get
Yep,
rid of the
I
old
got
one,
it.
put the new one in.
Yep,
So if you
I got
could
a
get
ping
that to
file.
me.
It's a ping file of transparency. I can send it to you.
Okay, excellent.
George made it for us when I told him to basically take Emerald Necklace.
Well, thank your designer. That's cool. I took a stab at it, trying to do it with the old upper and lowercase letters, but
Mm.
Yep. And
it's nice. I like it with the uppercase there.
It's not that far off. Anybody that has, the three of us basically, but Brian asked the question about at one point 6 months ago or more, we had Norwood's Emerald Necklace or Emerald Necklace of Norwood or whatever. So we've totally eliminated Emerald Necklace from the scheme. So if anybody has that, just nuke it, right? We need to,
And thank you, Chris, for pointing that out. I actually did research it and found that they have it in two areas, recreation and charitable
Yeah.
fundraising. So like if we want to fundraise for this trail and we want to use it in recreation, we need to leave it on.
I suggest, Brian, I suggest you copyright this.
That's a good idea. We should trademark that.
trademarked by the town, because we don't say Norwood, Massachusetts, and there are other Norwoods, even though they have no clue what Tayot means, right?
No, that's a good idea. I don't know what's involved in that. Anybody knows the legal? ins
All right,
and outs?
let's not get into that. He was just
Trademark it for the t-shirt.
He was just, that's a sidebar. That's another subcommittee waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me today at the farmer's market why I think one of our bigger maps still says Emerald Necklace, and the person focused on Emerald Necklace, not on Tayot, and didn't really know what she was looking at. She said, I didn't know the Emerald, she was serious. I didn't know the Emerald Necklace came to Norwood. So I had to, talk her off that ledge, but,
Well, Lee wanted to call it the jeweled girdle.
yeah,
The jeweled girl. Yeah.
yep. Anyway, moving.
That was the original name.
I vote for that.
Okay, so we did vote, sorry, good. We did vote unanimously to adopt, so thank you. And we'll let George know, thank you. And yes, we'll have to go to the Board of Selectmen or Tony just to get that half of the town's approval.
So when you and I are done kind of doing
Yep.
this, I'll send
Yes.
it around to the subcommittee members so they can kind of,
If you need to,
just,
sure.
if they want to see it. And,
Pride and ownership.
Yeah.
And I wrote myself a note, I'll get to that picture of the subcommittee.
Okay.
We took a walk this past Sunday at Vanderbilt Pine Tree Forest. Thank you, Lee, Chris, Beth, for joining. Do you all want to weigh in on that walk? Chris, Beth, go.
Bill was absolutely wonderful. It really looked nice. It was well maintained. It was
Yeah.
laid out well.
Okay.
Thank you.
One whole side is Roger's work.
Yeah, look great.
And what a great feeling to not get to any point in the trail where we said, oh, if it wasn't so wet, we wouldn't have to turn around. Like we did the whole loop.
Wow.
We just, it's the first community hike where we didn't come to some dead end or, talk about some impasse that we're trying to struggle with, The lack of rain isn't the best, but boy, it felt great to just, it was wonderful. And I think everybody who was there really enjoyed it. We had some Floridians who were excited there weren't alligators.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hurricane Jojo would have enjoyed it.
he would have. Yeah. That's what
Evelyn might not have noticed.
yeah.
Um, We had 15 or 18 people, 1.7-ish miles. We did the plank, wait for it, the 4x12x20 plank.
Power line
That
stream
was 7
crossing.
miles, really?
1.7
Oh,
miles.
1.7.
Yeah.
I heard you say 7 miles too.
Oh, okay, sorry, 1.7 miles. Comments? He led the,
I compliments on the trail, the new trail. Very, very well put together, I thought.
Yep.
I just had one little point where I didn't see a sign and the trail went left and I went straight.
Oh.
So that was,
he did that
the
on,
only hiccup.
he did that on purpose. He did that on purpose.
We do need some of these,
Some of these
Yeah.
that mark that
although
show-
that's not,
Well,
that's not
yeah.
the tile.
Especially because the power lines, once you get across the ditch, it just keeps going, and there's a trail there. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
easy
yeah,
to
yeah.
put your head down and just keep going on
Yeah.
the power line.
Yeah.
Gee, we should do some wayfinding. What a great idea.
So we did it. It was a really good combination of newly cut trail. So the conditions were a little bit different. There were some kind of interesting views where you got those two down the blowdowns with there's got to be some way to spruce that up a little bit to
Yeah, was
highlight
it got like an
that.
arcade?
It was one with the roots, the whole root system,
Oh,
the
Yeah,
trees,
You-
Came
you
over with
sought
a root
those
system.
Elements out.
Yeah.
That's
right.
a nice touch.
Yeah. And the trail goes right between the two of them.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool.
That's going to become, I think, one of our that's going to become the marquee photo at some point.
Nice.
It really is. It's one of the most interesting trail features in all of our trails is walking through those two root clusters.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then, so the combination of that and several other people on the walk said that the second half of the route, which was the one that's been in use more often, it was more compacted and probably easier to follow and some less trip hazards, if you will. So it was a good combination of, easily accessible versus some,
So you took the
not even
newly-
challenging.
You took the newly blazed part first. Is that it?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's why it would have been rough.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
we all ought to make every effort possible to just go out, even if you're just going to walk that section, right? Just try to get all that tamped down because
Right.
there's a lot of, the little roots and everything like that.
And I'd
More of
like
us
to
go
have
out there.
Chris Weston's input as a runner.
Yeah,
Yep.
that'd be tough
Yeah.
running on that.
To Chris's point too, Chris Paddock's point, in terms of just going out there during a week or a weekend or anything, like that new section, I mean, it's all buckhorn, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
been cut with the weed whacker because the weed whacker can cut it, but it's not dead yet. And it dries out. And each time somebody goes in there each month, it snaps off a little bit better. And I have learned it's really nice to weed whack the night before it's going to go below freezing the next
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
because you got all the shredded bare bark on stuff and it kills that buckhorn. That's
Could I ask for an update on the animal protected section? You got some animal barrier around a tree or something back in there?
No, it's Joe's white pine and
It's part of the sealing process
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
pine tree forest.
So are we gonna do more of those?
I mean, I've been needing to get out there all summer. I just haven't gotten to get out there. Time's running out on that.
Yep.
But to do it strategically, I guess. But
The less,
My friends, I have to leave you.
okay. Marguerite, thank you. Thanks.
Good to see everybody.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Good to see you.
So I asked about the Pixon area, just as we were walking past it. And the pine tree looks great, the blueberry tree looks great. They're definitely being protected from getting people. So,
it was in there one day without the fence and the top of the pine tree got nipped off by a deer, I'm sure.
One thing that comes to mind along that heading is, I think it was in the spring. I think it was in the springtime. There was a pruning session or a cleanup session at the orchard. The
The community.
Community
Yeah,
orchard.
Might have been late winter.
and late winter, and it ended up that Kylie and Alex had at least 12 to 15 saplings of other things that just randomly grew in the orchard area.
Yeah.
And then we pulled them, but then they left them in water buckets or whatever. And anybody that wanted to take them could take them.
Right.
They basically didn't want them in the orchard area.
Mm.
So that might be something if there are saplings of value that we take out of either the orchard or anywhere else, that we might want to consider bringing them over
It'd
to.
be nice to let whatever's naturally occurring there
Right.
thrive, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't think there's not much we could put in there that's gonna be that, you know, because most of the little saplings we find are like little oak trees, little hickories, which grow there anyway.
Yep, yep. Could cultivate the town, across the town pawpaw trees and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, I think that walk was well received, and the one email that I get back after that was from somebody who was on the walk, and they immediately wanted to know the next walk we were going to take. So that's good. Yes, sir.
The other great thing about that too is the O'Donnell family, the family that was
Yep.
there. They were on the New Year's Day hike, and you know, it's one thing for us to notice how much different the trail is, but for when people who only do it twice a year, in some cases, 3 times a year, when they notice how different it is, that's even more valuable.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That was where we went New Year's.
Yeah.
And
Right. So I that was
Yeah.
another great thing. It's like to have, you know, the evaluation from the public to be like, hey, look at it now, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I'm sorry, Roger, you were going to say.
I'm just gonna head out.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
thank
I
you.
meant to say you early on.
Thank you.
You did
Yeah.
not have to stay
Yeah.
the whole meeting.
Roger,
Yeah.
Roger, thank you very much. Thank you.
for all your work.
I'll be back.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Did I hear him say he's on the cross country in Walpole?
Yeah, he lives in Walpole.
He lives in Walpole, but he's helping out in Irvine.
Let's make sure we hit everything. So we had that, we did that, we did that. You did that, Brian. Did we cover everything? I think we did, but Brian, this is the email you sent me.
Yeah, I went through and I looked at it.
Okay,
and
cool.
It's like everything that I wanted to cover in September is covered.
Okay, great.
The only thing I need to find somebody to take that materials list.
Yep.
And,
Okay.
the pricing for me, so I have that in the presentation in case the question comes up.
Gotcha. Okay. Somebody, I don't know if this is Chris Riston.
Yes.
So on the screen there, just to follow up with that, on the Neponset Trail. So that's the length of Meadow Street at the bottom and the Meadow Street Blue Trail going up the Neponset.
So amazing to be able to do this right now.
Nick, right?
That is pretty cool.
So the checkerboard thing is where you'd enter at Meadow Street?
Yes.
That's Forbes?
That's, yeah,
Park.
that's the,
Parking. Yep.
Okay, that's the park.
Fortune Drive. Yep.
basically the trailhead.
And so you go loop in and around and that goes it'll go all the way up to, is that University Avenue property up there?
University Avenue is up here.
That's Purgatory.
That's Purgatory. Road.
And then
that's
that
where-
Purgatory Brook behind.
So,
Wayne.
So
you know,
far-
are
so
we
far.
looking, will the Tyack Trail then continue over to at least to Route 1, to Providence Highway? Along that?
Well, yeah, you cross Purgatory Brook and you go left all the way up to the Jeep dealership. So it's 2 miles basically from Meadow Street to where it ends, and it's 3 miles from where it ends to the Jeep dealership across from Barbecue.
And
So it's
So
5,
that-
it'll be 5
this
miles.
is where you'd
one
want
way.
to put the Tyack Trail.
That is the
Yeah.
trail.
Yes, that's where these would go.
Well, we're
Part
gonna
of-
have it
part
on
of it.
Meadow Street? It's
I'm
not-
sorry?
It's, you've got an orange cart that comes in from Meadow Street. Is that gonna be like the temporary entrance for the Tyack Trail?
That's
On
that
that
is
side.
the end.
That's
Yeah.
part of,
That
Yeah.
is,
not both sides, but it's the one that goes by Kofsky.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay.
the one that goes to 5 o'clock
Right.
and then
that way.
comes back up to high noon. So that,
Everything that's blue on the Meadow Street map is the Tyack Trail.
That's Tyack.
Oh, okay.
and then that white building at 11 o'clock at the top is on the left. That's the skating club.
Yes.
No, right where it
Oh,
says
on the-
5GE
on the
on the
left,
left. And you can actually see the outline of the old golf course below it,
Oh, yeah.
right? So it's going to keep going along the roughly through the golf course.
This is exciting.
There.
Yep.
It's hard to tell.
So Brian and Gene, go out there tomorrow. Do it before it rains.
Yeah.
Even if it rains, like
We've
even
been talking about going on a hike and then.
even after a day like yesterday where it was kind of crappy, but it really didn't result in any waterfall at all. The other thing, when we were out here last week with Kylie, Joe and I, we saw one runner, one neighbor who was just walking his dog. We saw
Kayaker.
a kayaker, and we actually saw somebody across the river at Signal Hill. She was walking, she had like 3 or 4 dogs. She was a dog walker, and she couldn't figure out how we got over there and where we were, and she didn't grasp the whole thing.
And the day before, the day after, I saw a mountain biker out there at the middle trench. And the day or 2 before that, Howie Allen, who was helping me on the University Ave trails this June, I told him and his wife they walked out there last weekend and they saw a family of 4 walking out there that day. It was a father with a baby in a harness. It was, and the mother, we presume, and the grandmother. So
Yeah, that's cool.
all 2 miles in, basically.
If you build it, they will come.
And something just occurred to me about that photo is, okay, so we can't match the view from Signal Hill, right? Like topographically, we got nothing,
No
right?
elevation. Yeah.
But this has got to be significantly more trails than there are at Signal Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. Like that we have more miles of trails on the other side
Mhm.
of the Neponset. That's huge.
And out and back's not ideal,
No.
but you see something, when you're walking the other direction, everything looks different.
Yeah.
So you'd see a lot of the stuff for the first time just on your way back.
And just I noticed on Norwood Day, you mentioned a new thing that you blazed that comes out, I think here.
Mhm.
Is that where it is? We managed to get about that far and there was a fence and we couldn't figure out how to get. So next time maybe we'll come in from that direction. But it's
You go
it's pretty
left
rough. It's
around
pretty
the
rugged
fence.
still. It looked like you need more people to.
I
help
need
you.
someone who
We need
lives
you
in the
help.
neighborhood to adopt the trail.
Yeah. It's amazing what you did though.
If we-
It's just that the sticks are about a foot.
If we could only find somebody who lives in that neighborhood.
Yeah. But you'd have to show me how to get the little trees out from the middle of the trail without,
You must have got lost because it's clear.
Yeah.
Once you hit the fence, you just go right alongside it, but away from the airport on the inside.
So one thing to the, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, we turned around, came back.
So one of the things that about your point about where's the key for the shed, but I know you tried to do this a few times, so it might make sense for us to like find a day when when we're all committed to meeting up at the Mylod Street and just have a shed 101 discussion and weed whack the area between the food forest, between the 2 panels or whatever, but just to make sure we're all on board and up to speed with the shed.
And I was
So-
going to say there's 2 things that are important. The combination locks are the same on all the doors, but it's really important that anybody who goes in makes an effort to close it when they go out because the critters come right.
Oh, that's the garden. This is the
Oh,
shed
I'm
door.
sorry.
And it's
Shed.
it's a different lock, different combination there.
Oh, there is, okay.
But the same concept
Yeah, you get
applies.
down to like, Joe, I'm sure little things like shed 101 involving like how to mix the 2-stroke.
Yes,
You know, like,
That's
Leave that to me.
There's a certain percentage
I'll
of oil
leave
versus.
the
I know you got preferences. I'm
Let's
just saying,
shed
you know.
201.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
want
yeah.
a certain type to start it and a certain type to.
But that's all written. I got it.
Got
So if you've already done the
Yeah.
mix, we just have to pour it in, right? You've already done the mix in a gas.
Right,
can
but if you read the card there, that
Right.
says, before you leave, use the gas out of the metal can, which is the 50-to-1 mix.
Right.
Start the thing up, that way you know it's gonna start, because these things, when they get through
They come up.
their shelf life of hours, they stop working, period. You don't wanna drive all the way somewhere, walk out to the woods, fire it up, and realize it's not even started. That could still happen, but if it starts up before you leave the parking lot,
What does it have, built-in obsolescence? It just
It does.
quits at a
it
certain.
tells you right on the boilerplate, right on it, how many hours it lasts.
Really?
And it does not last.
See this
longer than
temple up here? This, the wheels are turning constantly.
So we buy the ones that have the, longest amount of hours. And I know one of them.
Do we have a place where all of them goes in it also? We just work it till it turns.
That's all I
Move
can
it.
do, what I'm logging.
Got it.
Just one at a time, however you go.
Okay, so item, so we talked about October 6th, check. We've still carrying a couple of table items, check, number 7. Members minute, what time is it now? It's 20 of 9, thank you. Let's take 5 minutes and go around the table. Any members minute?
Yeah, the only thing I had left on my list to talk about was, well, 2 things actually. One, the community garden requested a sign be put down at the community garden at the sign on Mylott Street. You may have seen that little ending sign right at the edge of the parking lot. And I had said, well, we should also, if we're doing one, they should probably do one for the food forest. They should probably do one for the Indian Trailhead. So those
Nice.
3 options were proposed.
So those would be on the bottom of the,
They would go on the bottom,
right on the
below
same
it like
stake.
this.
Post.
The top can lift up about another 12 or 18 inches. You see the post stick up a little higher than it. That's all been approved by Concom at the last Concom meeting. So
Outstanding.
I'm thinking, so it's just a matter of time before somebody builds those. So I'm not sure who's paying for it, but at least they are pursuing a uniform, approach that's basically going to look like this. If anyone wants to see it.
Yeah, that's good.
And the goal is because Mylott Street especially is so busy, it's a way to identify what's going on there. But this is not something that's going to happen
Everywhere.
across the town.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's on a bend and with a wall on one side that makes it a blind corner. So like the logos are kind of important because people going to community garden have probably seen the community garden logo on stationary letterhead websites. People going to the food forest have probably seen something Mark Negron has been publishing with his logo on it. And people know the trails logo. If you're looking for the trails, because they've seen it on the map. So even if you can't read the words when you're whipping around the corner, you might see the logo and be able to tool right in there. So that was one thing I had. The other thing is when we start buying tools, which we have money for, with the CPA money for the building the bridges, which should probably start around November when everything goes on sale at Home Depot and Lowe's. I'm going to suggest we build a hedge trimmer. I've been borrowing the DPW's hedge trimmer, but you got to return it all the time. We don't use it that often, but when you want it, it's right tool, right job. You really need it for certain things. And one of the things, if people are looking for something to do besides weed whacking, is on the green trail on Meadow Street, all the buckthorn is thin, it's skinny, it's leaning in. When it gets snow on it, it's going to do more than lean in. So just buzzing down the side with the hedge trim is going to be the
I
fastest
do
way,
like that tunnel.
instead of just lopping every
Mhm.
single branch one at a time. So if we get those, it'll be great for that. And then there's certain places in University Ave where they have those awful vines that Chris and I fought through for days once with loppers.
Yeah.
And then one day I borrowed
Green Briar is there.
the hedge trim and was like, are you kidding me?
Where have you
This is
been all
like
my
one-
life?
Yeah.
I had the tiniest bit of exposed skin right here, and it was all just like a million tears and scrapes.
Yeah, ruined my clothes,
Yeah.
and nasty thoughts. So I'll just buy one of those when I see it on sale.
The other thing too, and Beth, I know you go down to Ellis a lot. So even if it's like maintenance doesn't have to be quote unquote maintenance, it can be like a walkthrough and just, we just checked the box and said, I've been to Ellis and, no down trees and status quo. But we just need to kind of get into that habit until we can actually find somebody in the neighborhood that's in there a lot and they can do that instead. But the more,
Ground is maintenance too.
yeah, yep. The more of those things, the better. Especially over the winter when the weather gets crappy and we're more prone, I think, to down trees and things like that, that the sooner we find out, the better. But, so, okay,
It
cool.
was
Thanks.
nice and dry.
Definitely there. Members minute?
The Ellis Trail was dry this week. No, I do that at least once a week. I pick up the trash and go around, and I've encouraged my neighbors to do that.
Okay.
Actually, my kids next door, he said, we went all the way around. I said, yeah, I've been telling you. But,
Yeah.
no,
Speaking of picking up trash, Doug on Meadow Street, who walks Connie the dog, he's been picking up branches on trails. I suggested we needed somebody to adopt the trails and nothing else, pick up the branch. And he goes, I'll do that. And it's been very noticeable that he's taking care of that.
even on Pine Tree, I think I'll go out to Pine Tree at the beginning, the new part, and pick up things I said to Lee.
Yeah, because
There's
when
the
we
first
whack
couple
it, we
hundred
can't
yards,
stop
right,
to that.
exactly.
We'll just keep going.
Can you make sure, Beth, can you make sure that that's, I'm thinking of Ellis, make sure the next time we put a list together of water crossings or things like that to get across planting field to the other end, the conservation property, because that would be a pretty slick walk as well. So if you go
You mean where the creek is
that you ford,
I have been not able to cross on a board, yes.
okay. Yes, that one. Because that would be good. That the meadow on the other side is all conservation land. And until last year, maybe last fall, there was nothing to go to. But then the I don't know if it was the light department or the DPW went in and they cleared they put in an easement to put in, I think, power lines underground. And as a result, there's a clear easement that goes all the way to the back of the Toyota dealership.
I'll go.
So, yeah. If I'm around, I'll go with it. And I haven't been over there for a couple of months.
Well, I get my car done at that Toyota.
Ah,
So if I can
perfect.
walk home.
It's better than walking on Route
Yeah,
1.
which-
I get news for you.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you. Chris?
Just one more plug for going out to help Joe weed whack is that I went out 2 weekends ago and on the way there I was like, man, we're gonna have those weed whackers. We're not gonna see anything good. Every animal within a 2-mile radius is gonna just run away. I saw some of the most wildlife I've ever seen out there. We got the snapping turtle. There's this frog letting me pick it up. Like, I mean, you see more stuff when you're out there weed whacking somehow.
Snapping turtle was big too.
Yeah, it's great, and so it's just like a hike except a little harder.
You see more snakes because you're looking down.
Yeah, right. And you like pull the covers out from on top of them.
Yeah.
So you still get all the benefits of the hike and you're doing good work on the trails at the same time.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
It
Jane?
was kind of exciting to hear about how the community that had walked on the New Year's Day hike noticed the improvement.
Yep.
And that was nice.
And that's in that same group. On that day, on New Year's Day, I forget if it was you, Chris, that described not being able to do the whole loop on New Year's Day. And they were actually excited that we could do the loop because they had been disappointed the last time that we couldn't do it. So
Always leave along the lawn.
Yep. Good. Thank you. Brian?
Just a quick, last month, the reason we weren't here at the meeting is we were up in Vermont enjoying many of the trails up around Smuggler's Notch. So we just went and we looked we noticed one day we took like one that said it was moderate and we were like really winded. So we picked the ones that they think are easy, which gave us enough of a challenge. And we saw lots of waterfalls and covered bridges and stuff like that. So
Moderate means something way different.
In Vermont,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
There's an
It's like
exchange
moderate,
rate.
moderate is,
Yeah, right.
you know, it's sort of like, you know, moderate, it's like a 500 to 900 foot elevation change on it, you know, like,
everything's relative.
so,
Yep.
so we had a good time and lost some weight. I did anyway.
That's
And,
good.
So,
good.
so that was neat and seen, and it actually, the leaves had already started turning a little bit. So, just while I'm thinking about it, under really quickly, say, Joe, I have this, but since the first of the trail markings are going to go, could I get a copy of that one where you're going to actually put the trail markings, and then I could kind of use that to supplement, and I'll put the new logo in here. You know, I still have the old logo in the big trail, but to show them where we're actually going to put it to start
Yep.
with, that'd be good to have as a presentation.
To the point of elevation, the last time we went out on Vanderbilt Pine Tree Forest, I did a Strava map, and it was 1.7 miles, and the elevation gain was,
9 feet?
any other guesses?
35 feet.
17 feet,
Oh, right in the middle.
right? So talk
Oh,
about
so winded.
everything's.
1.7 miles and 17.
Yep. And most of that 17 feet is the swales
Yeah.
going down 3 feet
Yeah.
and then back up 3 feet. That's
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
half.
Yeah, they dropped like 5 feet right away off the cul-de-sac. don't you?
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, it was nice. Thank you, Brian. Lee?
I don't have anything.
No, you do.
Yes, you do.
I don't.
Fess up.
Well, recently I was on the reservation with a couple friends of mine. We went to the Berkshires for a nice respite and got into a couple of some nice trails out there. And met some interesting folks, and had a situation where we had met up with them for one day, and then the next day they went on to continue their hike north. But then we ran into them a little bit later, a couple hours later, because we had driven to the shelter, and we said our goodbyes, and then about 20 minutes later they called Joe because they could. They had, one of the hikers had found my credit card that I had
Wow.
inadvertently dropped at the shelter. So that day we had to go back and meet up with them a little bit farther up the trail.
Does the Appalachian Trail go through there? Is that
Yeah,
where-
yeah,
Wow.
right across Mount Greylock.
So that's where you're.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they were my trail
Yeah.
angels that day.
Yeah.
So that was my story.
And Lee introduced me to Tom. What's his last name?
So there's a
Speaking of
long
angels.
time, just friend of the trail community that lives in one of the towns there in Western Massachusetts, Stoughton. And he is literally, the trail goes right in front of his house. And so he'll often allow hikers to tent out if they need a place to stay at that point, and also then shuttle them in and out. In fact, Tom had picked up this couple the day before we met them to bring them to the start of their section hike. So they just, they were like second day on the trail themselves, but had done a big section last year. So they were coming back to finish or to continue their section hiking of the Appalachian Trail. They were headed to all the way through Vermont this trip. So
We heard about him through Tom,
Tom,
day one. That same day in the afternoon, Lee, another guy, Roy, who's been here before, and I walked down to one of the shelters at Greylock, and we bumped into this couple. And the more they told us about their story, they're from California. They just got out to the trail yesterday. I was like, wait a minute, are you from California? And did Tom give you a ride yesterday? And as it turns out, he was talking about them.
same people, small community.
We told them about the lodge at the top of Greylock, where as needed, you can go in and volunteer and work, like watch dishes or whatever. And then you can, theoretically, you could stay for free and eat for free overnight. And that's what they did. And then, so we met them there, that's twice. And then we met up with them again at the shelter. And then the fourth time was the credit card retrieval.
Right as they were getting ready to leave go on into the
Yep.
state of Vermont.
Yep, really nice couple. You never know who you're gonna run into, so. But the thing we should have told you about,
I wasn't gonna let that pass.
he's in charge of distracting and, to whatever that is.
So I got like 1 minute.
Yeah, so Doc, otherwise I'm gonna tell on you. So Lee walked the Tayot Trail this week.
He's the current record holder for fastest known time.
It's also the slowest known
it's also
time.
the slowest
That's
known
all right.
time.
The only person who's done it.
First in his age group too.
That's right.
Oh,
First, yeah,
yeah,
the oldest and youngest.
yeah. He's got the male, he's also got the male record,
Yes.
right? So Lee
Best
finished,
looking.
okay,
Bingo.
Oh,
all right,
wow, okay.
there you go.
So I
Now he's blushing.
would say that you really do see a lot of different things on this trail, depending on what time of day. As soon as I got on the trail at daybreak, 6:30 in the morning, I was seeing wildlife. On the section around the airport, I saw another, basically a herd of deer, 4, right up at the north runway opening there.
Yeah.
And it's so cute because they were like bounding.
Yeah.
And
See the
the
whitetail.
and the mile a minute grove.
Yeah.
So like only their heads were above
Yeah.
the mile a minute.
There's
Um,
Bob and there's Bob. And
Yes,
there's Bob.
up.
Okay, first to finish,
Yeah.
first.
Whole
Yeah.
circle.
So
Most
um,
Show me
updates.
where that
Yeah.
is. That
He may
sounds like
not be the record holder forever, but he will forever be the first.
The first?
record holder.
There you go.
as far as we know,
to do it all in
I
one day.
think this guy has done it.
He's probably done it.
He's
just not
done it
one day.
all.
In one day.
Different
I've only
sections.
I've done each half once. So I did Route 1 West one day, Route 1 East another day, months apart. And that
But
was,
not the whole.
exhausting.
Once, yeah.
so
And
to do the whole thing is.
Having
a
to cross
big
Route
feat.
1 didn't like put too big a damper on it. That's the thing I always worry about in this is like, yeah, then you just get to Route 1.
Yeah,
you
me
cross
too.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to do it twice.
Yeah.
It's Union Street and Everett Street.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you get the Jeep dealership and Burger King, so you got
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
to take a break and crosswalk.
Well, actually, I went to Rojo's I avoided Burger King and the other one. I went to
I went to the
Yeah.
health food store. Rojo's.
So in the geocache world, there's such a thing as first to find. Like if you're the first one to find a geocache, so we'll have to come up with some designation for first to complete.
We'll have to find out what kind of geocaches are on the tile.
Yeah, it's only the beginning.
Can I have 30 seconds? Can I have a minute?
No.
Real quick. I wanted to show off
Go ahead.
Coolidge
show off my
24.
Coolidge 24 button. This is, this year being campaign. The next time we're going to get together, it'll be after election. day.
Yeah.
Believe that? So this is 1924. Calvin Coolidge. So it's, it just happened to be this year. So that's one of the things we saw. We were up in Vermont and we saw the Calvin Coolidge birth site up there in Plymouth Notch. So the place we visit.
Cool.
Coolidge 24. It was just too cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
Very cool. 30 seconds.
So let's see, Vanderbilt Walk recovered. Today at Farmers Market, the person who runs the booth directly across the aisle came over and she was talking about walking trails and what we do and all this. She lives in Norwood. She is actually homeschooling one of her kids. And she asked if we would consider taking a group of homeschool kids on a tour sometime. And I said, absolutely. And if we can't, there's not enough, by the description, there's not enough kids in the town of Norwood that are being homeschooled. So they're associated with like a regional group. And they do, she didn't say where they were going, but they were going to some farm to do a tour of the farm as part of their program and their curriculum. And so she was very interested to hear that we've taken the Willett kids out one time and we've gone out with Daisies and
Yeah.
Cub Scouts and various other groups. So So that might be a possibility. She wanted to know if we had a minimum number of like members on the tour, and we said we don't care. And I said even if it doesn't work, like even if it's not a Norwood thing, even if we can't logistically make it happen, we could definitely give her some ideas on where else to go.
And if you reach out, if you make contact about it too, if she's looking for like anything in particular in terms of like a curriculum for the hike, or like let me know, I can probably write something up.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. So that was one thing. One person who came to the booth today, a couple of members of the Norwood's Finest, the Norwood Police Department came out, and we were talking about Cooper Park and when that's theoretically will be completed. He this officer said that he actually grew up on St. John Ave, and he used to play in the woods at where the Cooper Park is. So he definitely, I told him we'd pick his brain and try to get some historically relevant stories that he'll be willing to share. But we talked about what that means to the neighborhood, him having grown up in the neighborhood, and the way they used to view that park as opposed to the way they will come to view that park. We started talking about the expansion of the Tire Trail, and now we're going to area parts of town that literally years and maybe hundreds of years, if ever, that people haven't been out there since, which is good news, but it's just like it's a challenge on the maintenance side. It's also challenging to public safety because now you've got mountain bikers and you've got trail hikers, etc., theoretically, that will be out there. And how do we as a town support those people? Safety, guidance, 911 calls, just the fact, just knowing that people are using our trails. So we started getting into that discussion. That's actually a discussion I've had with both former Chief Brooks and Chief Patton to try to collaborate with public safety on introducing them to the trails and
So on that
where we go
note,
from here. So.
one of the mornings I was at Meadow Street, there was two black vehicles parked by the pike gate up against the woods, not on the grassy part, but beyond the road, right, the paved area. And one of them walked up to me as I was getting dressed to walk in, and it was one of the hunters, because they were going out there to, stake out where they were going to go. And they were like, whoa, these trails are kind of clear. This wasn't done by a hunter. It was like the day after we had done a bunch of it. But turns out the one who was talking to me is an old police officer, works midnight shifts. He's a hunter. I'm like, okay. So they got in-house knowledge, of, what's going on with the trails out here, which is good, because there's, they could be coming to us if there was something asking us about something at some point, but they probably don't need to.
Yep.
I wonder if it's worth doing, like, how there was that like storytelling session at the library about floods and stuff like that. That's kind of a bummer one. Strong storms. I just talked about the floods in '78 a little bit. I wonder if it's worth trying to put together like a storytelling session of the oral history of like trails in Norwood. Right, hear everybody's what they used to do. I'm thinking like Ernie's stories about skating the trails, and maybe just to, as we get further in the Tire Trail, like trying to get everybody excited, hear those stories. We could offer them immunity from all the questionable activities they probably did out there. That might be something that could be fun.
I can see the interview now. They're off camera. They don't want to be shown.
Yeah.
Don't show my kids
Just the
this.
silhouette.
With
Yeah.
silhouette.
Yeah.
Voices
Yeah.
vibrated a little bit.
And,
Modulated voice.
Thank
and not to, if I can use Brian's extra 30 seconds for a second, but no, but these are my extra 30 seconds. But when we were out with Kylie last week, Doug showed you the remnants of, remember you took a picture
Yeah,
of
it
that?
was
Did
a
you tell
bridge.
Chris?
So, no, but this might be the vet keeps saying, do you see the old bridge? Do you see the old bridge? I'm like, no, I've never seen the old bridge. right across from Signal Hill, there's it's probably, it's bigger than a railroad tie.
On our side of the
I
river?
saw that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Our
Yes.
side of the river?
So there must have been a bridge going across there. at one point.
Yeah.
It's right,
Gotta
it's
be,
right
yeah.
at it's probably the middle trench. So if you go down into the dry now trench
Uh-huh.
and look north, you might have to lean into the river to see it, but you see it, it's like this big square.
Yeah.
So it's the
Built
foundation
into the
of,
bank, yeah.
Cool.
and because you've done all that research into,
Yeah, and I've never seen, I could never find anything.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that there were no fewer than a dozen bridges across the Neponset at one point.
Yeah.
300 years ago.
this was interesting. On the other side, on the Signal Hill side, that's the area that there's almost like a peninsula of
Rocks.
rocks that leads, that's 2/3 of the way across the river.
Yeah.
And whether it's coincidence or not, but it was right where the bridge abutment is.
Yeah.
So whether or not they put the abutment on one side and built up, like extended the bank into the river on the other side, but I thought that was kind of coincidental
Yeah.
in the
It
same
makes
spot.
sense that it was from Signal Hill. I mean, as like an outpost, right? Like if you go to a high spot, or you want to clear those high spots so you can see off into the distance. That makes a lot of sense. That would be a bridge there.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Well,
I know.
today is a significant day in Norwood history. I found out today that in 1909, a meteor fell in Norwood.
I read that. I read
So,
that.
Besides it being our anniversary today, you know.
Where
It's-
did it land?
Earth-shaking
What's that?
event.
Where did it land?
Oh, I don't know. I just.
Brook
saw it
Street,
on-
Brook Street up by St. Tim's, by St. Tim's.
Another
Oh,
song was full.
okay, our next
Created a dam.
scheduled meeting is Tuesday, November 12th. I've got a couple of things between now and then. On October 13th, next Sunday,
That's
the
not Veterans Day? No.
11,
Yeah, yeah, sorry.
11. Yep. On October 13th, Sunday, 6 to 8 or 5 o'clock setup. The rec department pumpkin float as opposed to like a vanilla float. November 2nd is the Norwood Public Schools Wellness Fair. That's a Saturday morning, 9 to 12. And I'm sure there will be other things come up. Unless anybody has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yeah, sure.
Second, Gene, your name's not in there. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. This brings to an end the October 8th, 2024, to the 2024 Norwood Trails Advisory Committee meeting. Thank you one and all. Norwood Public Media, thank you for continuing to carry our meetings, and we do appreciate it. Thank you all and good night.
Right.
I see Norwood Scout.